Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Hidden Agenda. My apologies for a late start. Helping a neighbor out, and actually trying to help another neighbor out. Right now, some other issues that's going on. Again, my apologies on that there. We're going to keep this somewhat brief. We're going to recap the meeting from last night, which the only agenda item this was regards to discussion of the removal of Tim Rhodes as an alderman from the city board. For those of you who tuned in, we've had I haven't looked lately, but our video, hold on a second here. Wow. Yeah, we're at 13,000 views on that one video since last night. So that's not too shabby for having 13,000 people take a look at a video in a day's time. Anyway, what we're going to talk about here is what transpired, and then we're going to talk about information in the what transpired in the meeting, some discussions and stuff, and try to get you guys a little bit better understanding. First of all, there was no action taken last night. There was no vote by the board. When the meeting was right near the end, right before the meeting was adjourned, Alderman Wildridge informed us that this meeting was pretty much held because this was at the request of the district attorney for the board to hold a meeting to discuss what's going to happen here. And so, I mean, it was... they didn't anticipate any action happening, so I mean, it is what it is. I'm not quite sure why we went through the whole process. We could have started with that, but anyway. So, is this a dead stick? I don't know. I mean, technically, what happened, what spurred all of this here was someone, and we do not know who, contacted the state attorney general. So it's going to have somebody that wanted to reach out to the Attorney General and file a complaint. Attorney General comes down, sends the information to the DA to get this addressed. DA met with the city attorney and the city mayor, and they decided to have a meeting, and that's where we are with everything here. Before we dig into this here, well, I'll save this here to end. We're going to save the best for last. So anyway, this meeting was held to discuss Alderman Rhodes' future. Just so you guys understand this here, it is very precise in the city charter and state law say that what pretty much what it looks like is somebody copied and pasted off of state law, off Tennessee Code Annotated, what is actually in our charter. And I'm going to read it to you here because I want you to understand this here, because I want to put emphasis on one word. In the event the mayor or alderman should move from the municipality during their term of office, their position shall be presumed to have been vacated, and it shall be declared vacant and filled by the remaining members of the board. So, shall means you have to. Okay, so reading that there again, in the event the mayor or alderman should move from the municipality during their term of office, their position is required to be presumed to have been vacated. Okay, so they require them to presume it's been vacated. It doesn't state that it shall be considered vacated. It shall be presumed. So, presumption leaves it open for interpretation, and to me in this here, what happened in this meeting was Alderman Rhodes, without a doubt, showed that he has intent to remain a city resident. Now, this is where things get tricky, and it's really hard to explain to people. Residency is not as definitive as what you're thinking of. And I'll explain this here the best way I can. What the law states is if your intention is to remain a residency, you can move outside of the municipality for a year or more. That's exactly what it states in Tennessee Code Annotated, a year or more. And remember this here. What we got to look at is every military member that we have. Our son, he is a resident of Henderson County. He hasn't lived here in over 8 years because he has been deployed in the military. But that does not change the fact that he is still a resident of this county. This is his home of record. So what you have to look at is residency is not as simple as it sounds. Someone goes off to college. Let's say somebody's child inside city limits. Excuse me, something caught my throat. Okay, a child in the city limits goes to UT Knoxville to go to college for 4 years, and decides to stay up there in Knoxville for 4 years. I mean, they're having a good time. Why not? They're still a resident of the city of Lexington. Just because they aren't there doesn't mean that they're not a resident. Residency is based on intentions, not necessarily where you lay your head at. So that, and what Tim proved here was that he has already purchased a lot inside the city limits. He has already contracted with a builder, and the builder has already started doing dirt work on his lot to start laying, they're moving forward with building a house. So that's the reason is he is in compliance with state law as far as the definition of residency. So that's where this whole thing lies. Now, what I don't quite understand is the presumption, the language in there, shall be presumed. Well, if you're presuming something, I get it. But if there's evidence contrary to the presumption, then you're no longer presuming. You know that there's evidence contrary to the... So you shouldn't have to presume anymore. And that's where to me it's kind of it's a little bit gray here. It almost sounds like the way the charter is written. We don't need to go back and rewrite the charter. We just need to understand what the language states. So anyway, that's where all that gets into. Now let's get in here some information that was brought up last night. Conversations were had. We're going to go through these here right quick. Donna Ross brought up a court case out of Coffee County. This is I believe it's the city of Tullahoma versus Jenna Amaker. I'm sorry. And if you're watching Jenna, my apologies. What happened was this was a sitting alderman who was having... she was doing the right thing in her city. It's a very, very, very similar case to what exactly is happening right now inside of Lexington with Tim. So what happened was they tried to remove her, and they failed to do so. In Chancery Court, the judge would not remove her, even though they did prove that she was not, at the moment, inside the city. She proved with intent in a court of law that she had planned on moving back into the city. And she was nowhere near the state where Alderman Rhodes is at right now as far as building, purchase of property, or any of that stuff there. So, you know, in accordance with the law, Tim has met the requirements of residency to maintain his residency in Lexington. Now, I've had people ask me, like, well, can I sit there and say my intent is to be a Lexington resident? No. If you want to get on, and this was in question is, well, I live in the county. Can I say I intend to be a Lexington resident and run for office? No, you have to be a resident for 1 year. You know, now there is a difference. There is where it's not your intention because you weren't there and left. You've never there in the first place, and you say you have intention to move in. That's a different thing, is you didn't have a residency established in the beginning. Alderman Rhodes did have that. So we get down to that. That's what this whole thing is about and how it transpired and what the law states. Now, we're going to get in a couple things here because I want to point some things here out. And just because, you know, I think that you guys really need to pay attention, and I think that you have really been paying attention because I've watched comments on, not only on the video, on other posts that's on the page, and I've also watched comments on the city's video that they did because they live streamed as well. I have not seen any single person yet that does not support Tim Rhodes in his endeavors to remain as an alderman on the city of Lexington. Every single person that has commented someplace, form, shape, form, or fashion has all been in support of Alderman Rhodes remaining in that position. And I'm going to say this here. You guys do not, if you ever realize just how much power you hold as a citizen, as a voter, it would blow your mind. Because we got to see that last night firsthand, exactly how strong you are when you take a stand. And this is one of the reasons that I say it's imperative that people attend meetings. When you're attending meetings, you are sending a message to your elected representatives. I am here and I am watching. If I'm not happy with what you're doing, I'm going to call you out. And I'm watching. And when that happens, the worst way you can scare a politician is to make voters aware of what's going on and for voters to take a stand. And that's exactly what happened, what we saw last night. All right, now let's get into this thing here a little bit more because you know what, I don't believe in pulling punches. Everybody, I mean, well, I'm not going to say everybody, but there's a lot of people out there asking questions. Who turned this into the state attorney general? We don't know. If this goes to court, which I don't see it happening, but if the DA decides to pick this up and it goes into court, well, at that point in time frame, Tim's legal representative can subpoena the records to find the call logs to find out who actually made this call to or email or whatever it is to start this process, whatever you want to call it. And that, you know, that's just part of information that can be used within, you know, for part of the trial because, you know, intent here as well is the reason why this is happening is we're starting to try to figure out who's in somebody's intention to get this here going and to cause issues. So that's where it's at. Now, last night, there's some things I'm not quite sure exactly what transpired, but Alderman Ross got up there and shared a lot of information. And she had a conversation with the city attorney as well. But there was information that she brought out. Well, come to find out, well, what was claimed was other aldermen didn't have that information. And that's more specifically, I believe, Roger, Gabe, and Sandra. I don't know if they had information or not, to be honest with you. I know Alderman Ross has been calling and asking for information. She's been out here doing her homework because we all knew what this meeting was about. There's nobody that can sit there and say, well, we didn't know what the meeting was about, because we all knew what it's about. And this actually got started. The reason we're having this meeting, which we've seen in a public setting, is, if you go back to the January meeting, Alderman Lofton brought this here out about Alderman Rhodes sitting on the board. And after, with him moving outside the city. So when they played dumb last night, I'm calling BS on that there, because they can't play dumb on it. I mean, they sat right there in the same meetings. They're the one, Alderman Lofton is the one who started the thing. If you remember, this when him and Alderman Rhodes kind of got a back and forth interchange, and Alderman Rhodes made a comment, family and friends. So, that's when that meeting happened. But what's happened here is, when they played that well, I didn't know about this here. Everybody knew. We all knew. It's been shared on this page. We've all talked about it. We've actually talked about the Jenna Almaker case as well on this page. So, and we do know that they pay attention, because they make comments in regards to information that we put out on this page. So we do know that they're paying attention, and it is what it is. So sometimes you can play ignorant, sometimes you can't. And this is one of those things there. When it gets down to it, is no vote was ever taken last night. Nothing ever happened. And as far as I know, everything is dead with the city itself. So if anybody wants to take this here up, it will either be the district attorney, state attorney general petitioning for the district attorney to take it up, or if a citizen wants to take in contact the district attorney and wants to pursue this, that's also an option. So, is it 100% dead? No, it's not. Is it 99.9% dead? Yeah, because I don't see the district attorney trying to pick up something like this here to go after a sitting alderman elected by the people, and every place you look, the people are standing with the alderman. That's just, I just don't see that happening. And I think that last night, y'all took a stand. And it bodes well, and it's not just the people who stood up at the meeting the other night. There's also the people who made comments and stuff. People all over the place are just supporting Tim in this here. Because, at the end of the day, when you get down to it, Tim Rhodes has been one of those aldermen who has stood up for us and tried to represent us. So, it was well deserved, well earned for Tim to have the support of the people. And it goes back to me to tell me one thing, that I really believe that if you paid attention to conversations last night coming from that other side of the table, and I'm going to go ahead and call it Roger Lofton, Sandra Wood, and Gabe Williams, they were backpedaling last night. They were doing everything they could to backpedal and try to get out of it, because they saw the support. They saw the support with Tim. And again, what's the one thing that scares a politician? When the voters are standing up. And you guys stood up last night, and you stood out. I'm going to say last night was probably the most I've seen that place packed since the 74-cent property tax increase was talked about. Like I said, I can't say this here enough. If y'all guys get out here and attend at meetings, you don't even have to attend every single meeting. If there was 20 or 30 or 40 people, in communities. When I grew up, we used to have community leaders. It's just like we have it here. We have communities. It's not cities, it's not towns, it's just communities. And in every community, we had kind of a de facto leader, the person who, everybody in the community looked up to. And what these community leaders did is they actually would talk with our commission and talk with our mayor and whoever, and they'd bring information back and forth, and it was constantly, it was our community leaders actually took and stepped up and got information back out to the communities. And generally, most of our information was come out we'd have a monthly community gathering. I don't know if there's ever been anything like this here, but everything we had was like it's just a rectangular block building with an A-frame roof on it. Nothing spectacular. One end had a kitchen, the other end had a bathroom, and then there's a big meeting hall in the center. And that's just how we did. And these things, we shared information. I don't know if that will ever come about. And maybe that's just wishful thinking, but if we can get people, even if you're just in here cycling, like I said, if you're in a community and 5 or 6 of you get out and go visit the neighbors and talk and share stuff, I think it would be valuable to share that information. Where you can share this information. One person is taking turns and going to meetings. And you'll tell you what, county folks, I'm out here in the county with you. What happens in the city impacts us just as much as it does the city residents. When it comes to utilities, our gas, our water, if you're on the sewer line, what they do there, you should have a voice. And because that board controls what happens to the utilities, you should be able to step up in those meetings and just say, hey, look, I'm here to address the rates. Y'all do whatever you want to do with property tax, but I'm here talking about the rates. So yes, you have a voice inside that city. And I can tell you right now, I know city aldermen who'd be more than happy to have you up there explaining what's going on so they know what's going on. They can't help you unless they know what the problem is. But that's pretty much it. I just want to go over this here with you guys and explain to you that no action was taken last night. Tim Rhodes is still a sitting alderman on the board of Lexington. And unless somebody picks it up and does anything, it is where it's left where it's at, and nothing else is going to happen. And that's pretty much it. I just want to catch you guys up on that there. I do know that next Monday, the 23rd, the city will have another meeting. We'll try to cap that up on Tuesday, which I believe is the 24th. Let me get... Tuesday the 24th, we'll do a recap of the 23rd meeting. And then on the 26th, we'll have, I've got 2 commissioners going to be coming on. We're going to kind of do a round table. We're going to ask a couple of questions, and we're going to do a little round table. So they are special guests that I'm holding I'm keeping them anonymous until they actually get up in here on that Thursday. So, like I said, right now, the 23rd of March, we will be doing the city meeting. The 24th of March, I'll do a recap podcast in. The 26th of March, I've got 2 sitting commissioners coming in to talk. And I'm going to see here. Boom, 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 boom. That there has us off. Hold on a second here. I got something I need to check on now. Yeah, the when we do the 24th, we're going to do that 7. It may be a little after 7. The reason being is the Henderson County Solid Waste meeting will be on March 24th at 6 o'clock. So we will be in town to get that there, and then we'll hit it back to the back cave so we can bring you another edition of the Hidden Agenda. And so we'll be catching up for a solid waste meeting at the county and the city meeting. But that's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you as always for tuning in. And really, you guys take a bow, because your voice last night was heard loud and clear. And you certainly sent the message out there that we are paying attention and we're watching, and this is who we stand for and who we support. So kudos to you guys. Appreciate everything that y'all do, and we'll catch you on the flip side.